while we've been talking, I've been scanning this new article by Monty Pool, and there are two very, very interesting things in it. Monty Pool, NBC Sports Bay Area, with a new-ish report on Steve Kerr. And the headline is, sources, Steve Kerr hints he's open to a Warriors return, but alignment is needed.
Old alignment.
Well, you could immediately respond to Monty and say, isn't that what we've been saying all along? But Monty, remember, A, very tapped in, B, said just last week, I think that Steve Kerr only has about 15% is my read on whether or not he'll be back. So this article suggests, well, let's move that number up some. How much so? I'm going to reread the quote that I already read to you, and then I'm going to get to something else that I think you're going to think is a little bit of a banger, because Monty, at the end of this article, gets into what does Steve want and what do the Warriors want. And it's fascinating. So Monty spoke to, quote, one league source who said, from what I understand, Kerr in those meetings did not sound like someone who didn't plan on coaching next season. But then admitted, quote, I think it's more like 50-50 that he comes back. When the season ended, I would have said 60-40 that he's gone. So not a massive shift, but a shift to the point where now at least it sounds like in those discussions, people believe Kerr is trying to find a way to stay. I mean, that's kind of one of the things we've been talking about, right? With all of this discussion, is Kerr trying to find a way to leave, or is he trying to find a way to stay? That's what I find fascinating about that.
Well, it's easy to find a way to leave. You leave. And, I was fortunate in one job to actually not get fired, and I had the chance to leave. And so I thought about leaving, and then I actually decided you didn't give me a chance to counter. I decided I was going to leave, so I typed up a letter and put it in an envelope and slid it across the desk, and that was it. There was no I need a week, I need to go on a golf trip. It's like I decided to leave. So when you decide to leave, it usually is it's pretty simple, right? Because you're leaving. Right. They can't stop you from leaving.
No, but there's things here to consider. There's Steph. There's all of this, right? There's a lot to consider. So I think that's one thing I find interesting is whether or not he's trying to leave or is he trying to stay. This would suggest he's at least trying to stay. But try this on for size.
Okay.
Monty writes, because haven't we all been asking, what does the team want? What does Steve need? What is it y'all want? Well, he ventures into that arena. All right. What do you want first? What Kerr wants or what the Warriors want?
What a Kerr wants, what a Kerr needs. Thank you.
That was good. It's only a 3, but it's 5:23 on a Thursday, so I'm happy.
Grandy got the reference. I doubt Lucas did.
Did you get it, Lucas? What a Kerr wants, what a Kerr needs.
Yeah, it's a song. I couldn't tell you who it was by, though.
Grandy?
I know the song, but I don't know if I could give you the artist.
Okay.
Mariah Carey?
No.
Christina
Aguilera. It's Christina Aguilera.
Similar time, similar era.
Both of you. That's my fault. I put my faith in Grandy. That one burned me.
As you were. Go back to not listening.
Anyway, what Kerr
we're
wants.
both listening.
Okay.
Yes, Willard is 100% correct.
Thank you.
All right, that's enough of that.
All right, let's start with...
What you get for talking trash about me?
Yeah, you're right. Lucas from the third row. Yeah.
It's the best. And I'm laughing because of Lucas's face. Yeah. Well, it's funny. Anyway, all right, so you want what Kerr would want.
Don't make me sing again. Guru.
Actually, I changed my mind. I feel like I've read both of these. We should start with what the Warriors want.
Don't even ask me. It's like being at home with the missus all over again.
Just listen.
You're triggering me.
But wait, do you trust me? Do you trust me?
Yes,
A little bit?
A lot.
Among the issues the front office would like to see from Kerr, a readiness to embrace greater flexibility with coaching schemes. Okay? Particularly as they relate to younger players. While also You're going to like this one. Demanding more accountability from all players, including Steph Curry and Draymond Green. So all I take from that is, hey, can we be open to a little bit of a different style, and will you stop giving Steph and Dre carte blanche to do and say whatever the hell they want, including hawking the ball with one hand into the stands, when then you yell at Will Richard for turnovers that aren't even his fault?
Right.
Right?
Yes, but I mean, my immediate takeaway on that is too late, Joe.
Why?
Because
I don't even think those are large requests. Like, no problem.
particularly as they relate to the team's younger players, such as Kuminga. Well, he's gone.
No.
He's currently down by 50 in Atlanta.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying it's too late because,
But that's just that one young player.
okay,
There's
like,
other young players, and there's about to be a lottery pick.
in theory, if they don't trade it. But
Yes.
so greater flexibility with coaching schemes. So are we going to all of a sudden now highlight pods and we're going to have a pods package?
Like we're going to change the offense a little bit. No, don't do that because we don't know who's on the roster yet. We don't even know who's on the
When
roster.
I hear that quote and I'm reading it as you actually read it to the audience, that way I can fully internalize it, all I can think of is it's too late. It's too late because what you really wanted was to embrace greater flexibility with coaching schemes so that Jonathan Kuminga could cook, so you could maximize the ha-ha.
I don't believe that.
That's what I'm reading.
I don't believe that.
And also, you're going to demand more accountability from Steph and Draymond?
Yes. In other words, not like you need to have a press conference and apologize, but you don't get to be so damn flimsy with the ball. How can you all yell and scream about too many turnovers, but it's never their fault? Like, this says to me, the offense, we don't know who's going to be on the roster, but whoever it is, could we be open to maybe doing some different things, not firing up more three-pointers than everybody in the league, even though we're not that good at three-pointers? Do you know what I mean? Like this, I don't know. I get that request, and I don't feel like that's that tough. Steve would listen. Sure, you got it.
I mean, that's lip service to me.
Okay. Okay.
I mean,
and that's fine.
greater offensive flexibility with the scheme. Okay, Joe, who do I have to work with? So I've got Gee, who I'm a good little player, and I've got Pods, and that's about it. Moses is out for the year.
Okay.
I got Will Richard, he's a good player. He's a second-round pick. Like, what do you want me to do, Joe?
You're nailing this. Remember, we haven't said what Steve would say in response.
I'm telling you what he'd say in response.
Well, let me tell you, because you're onto something. Quote, among the factors that will determine Kerr's decision are roster construction, the front office's off-season plans, okay? And this is where it's about to get juicy.
Oh,
Some form of compromise on his willingness to address socio-political issues that are dear to his heart. Kerr is uneasy with suppression. Monty Pool says this is one of the things.
right.
Monty Pool says this is one of the key bullet points.
Right. So if you, pick through it one by one, roster construction, okay, sure. Like, what will determine his decision? The roster construction. Like, what are we doing here, guys? Are we going after a big fish? Are we trading the pick?
Yeah.
What exactly are we doing?
I read that as both. Are we talking about trading for any big names? But if not, sure, let's come to an agreement on our scheme. And then when we get to the draft, would you maybe listen to anything I have to say about who you're going to select? Or are you just going to pick ha-ha, even though I don't want ha-ha? And
Yep.
I don't think that will work with what we already have on the roster. And again, that's not Jonathan. That can be James. That can be all of the things. It is seemingly well documented that Joe Lacob's wishes drove the bus on both of those picks. And I think Steve would like a little bit more of a voice in the room.
right.
So
And
start there.
the front office's off-season plans. Like, where's Joe going on vacation?
No,
Probably not. But
don't you take that as like, are we
it's
going?
part of roster construction.
Are we going now or are we going future?
Right. And also, like, are you willing to go into the second apron? I mean, because this year they were above the tax, and I think they paid $45 million or so in luxury tax. So, like, what are we thinking in terms of that?
Sure.
Are you willing to go into the second apron because you won't be a repeater because you weren't in the second apron last year? What are you thinking in terms of budget? Like, what are we going to actually work with? And so those two things, I think, are much more easily addressed than the third one, which is compromise on his willingness to address socio-political issues that are dear to his heart.
I don't even know why there needs to be a compromise. Just my take. I'd tell Joe Lacob, get the hell out of that subject. Get out of there. What? Let me ask you this, because we talked about this for an hour and a half 2 days ago. In what way, shape, or form has Steve Kerr talking damaged the Warriors at all?
I can't answer that tangibly, nor can you, but
correct.
There could be
your opinion, your thought, your impression, your perspective.
My thought, my opinion, my perspective is that there are undoubtedly some fans who don't alignment with what Steve Kerr believes on certain socio-political issues that maybe aren't fans anymore, but at the same time, there's enough fans waiting in the wings to where I don't think that it affected their bottom line.
Wait, do you actually think that some people have unbecome Warrior fans because of this?
I think you might be a casual fan. I don't know if you're a diehard Warrior fan. I know that some Warrior fans stopped being Warrior fans when they moved across the bay.
Sure, there's that. That's different.
It's different, but it's also, in my opinion, it's kind of equally, mundane and pedestrian. And if you live in Oakland and you love the Warriors in Oakland, as I used to live in Oakland, and I loved being 8 minutes away from the arena, and I loved it, and they moved here, and I thought, well, that kind of sucks, because I used to be able to serve dinner to my kids, and at 7:15, jump in the car and make it to my media seat by tip time. That was cool, and now you can't do that anymore.
Sure.
But it wasn't enough of a deal breaker to drive me away from being a fan, but some fans maybe hear him talk about certain issues, and they might be on the other side of said issues, and they might think, forget it.
Of course, but to the point where you won't be a fan anymore?
Possibly.
I mean, that seems like a small group to me. Like, all of us make those exceptions all of the time. We know exactly what the political donations are of the Giants owner. They're probably not very popular in this town.
And I mentioned to you yesterday that there's a Kushner now who's a partner of the team.
Yeah, although weird stuff, because I read about it, and a lot of his donations are on the other side of the aisle.
You just never know.
Weird.
And you were joking yesterday about going into a grocery store and looking to buy something, and now you got to Google the company and figure out what does this person believe in before I get a can of tomatoes?
Yeah, exactly. Do I know what the Philadelphia cream cheese guy thinks? I have no clue, but I got a bagel.
You better, though.
I got to spread that thing.
You better recognize.
Yeah. Okay. The Niners have a pass rusher with a MAGA hat. That bothers some people. I don't know anybody who's so now Seahawks. Yay, Seahawks. What are we doing? I don't know anybody who's going to let stuff like that completely make them unfan. And so the Warriors have become a global brand. They are the highest valuated NBA franchise in America. Explain to me how Steve Kerr talking at a press conference has damaged them.
It may not
Explain this to me.
It may not be as simple as it damages the brand, but maybe his boss doesn't totally align. There's that word, alignment. Maybe he doesn't align with all of the things that Steve talks about.
So now the boss needs to align with all of the employees. What do you think the players think? Steph Curry has said plenty of things publicly. We don't have a problem with him.
I don't think he's ever weighed in on socio-political hot-button topics.
I mean, are you not in the same way by any stretch, but he has completely aligned himself with Obama a number of times. As, by the way, 98% of the league has.
Right.
So now we need to align with our employees?
You don't have to, but you can, as the boss, you can decide whether or not somebody being outspoken is a non-starter, no big deal, or it's something that you actually have to or want to address. And we've talked about this before in our business and our company, and we talk for a living, and there are things that we can say, and there's things that, I can give opinions about X, Y, and Z, and if they don't align with our boss and they are offended by my opinion, then I could be vulnerable.
Right, I get that. Although whenever we have this discussion, I always get not uncomfortable, but I'm a little like, I don't know if this catch-all works for me when people, because we'll do this. Like, for instance, we had that show last week where I said, I don't want Joe Lacob making draft picks.
Right.
I don't want Joe Lacob. I would prefer if Joe Lacob is not doing the basketball decisions. And then they put that online. And like, one of the things that came back as a lot of the responses was, he's the boss. He could do whatever he wants. Well, yeah, that's a catch-all. I get that he's the boss and he can do whatever he wants. That doesn't mean I need to agree with it. That doesn't mean I need to be in favor of it. Are any of you listening all in favor of everything your boss does? Or can we talk about this? Joe should, again, I speak in hypothetical terms because this is simply a report, and I don't even know if it's Joe, if it's his sons. It could be someone else completely in the organization. But anyone, in my opinion, should sit this one out. Like, Steve is not damaging anything. If it annoys you, okay, my opinion is, sorry, do you like the 4 rings? Let it go. Well, this isn't hurting anyone.
You don't know
it
that.
Might be I do know that.
I mean, you don't know if it's hurting the bottom line or not.
How is it hurting the bottom line? They're the highest valued. They're bigger than LA. They're bigger than New York.
I'm not looking at the balance sheet, and I don't know what sort of messages they get from other people. Maybe it's, some of the other investors, because Joe Lacob is not a 100% owner of the team. I think that there's 12 or 14 or 15 owners, and I don't know all the owners. I know that it's Lacob and Goober, and they've sold other pieces to other people, and those people who maybe have 4% or 6%, they might be somebody who can weigh into Joe Lacob and say, hey, look, what Steve said about whatever issue, it doesn't jibe with what I believe. How about we get him to just focus on basketball?
Right, and I'm going to sit here and say, sit that one out. I don't care if it doesn't jive with what you believe. Steve is in a position in his career where he can make that a thing and say, I am going to walk away. And by the way, PR nightmare for the Warriors, and I believe that will affect their bottom line. Because if that ended up, as I said to you earlier this week, if that ends up being the reason that people think this all fell apart, how do you think Steph feels about that? How do you think the fans feel about that? I know who would win that battle. Like, that's not going to be something that the Warriors want out in this world.
No,
at all.
The value is going to go down when Steph leaves anyway. I don't think it's going to bottom out like some people have said. And right now, I think they're valued at $8 billion, and you could sell it for $10 billion or whatever the value is. The value is just a valuation in the ether. Well, ultimately, what you sell it for is what it's worth.
The Lakers portion was sold at a valuation of $10 billion, right, and the Warriors are more.
Okay.
Like 100%.
And I would imagine that in 5 years when Steph is gone and Steve and Draymond and whatever, and maybe you're a lottery team year in and year out, although Joe Lacob said they'll never be a lottery team. Coming up tomorrow, we find out who they send to the lottery. I've been asking Raymond Ritter all day who the rep will be, but that value will go down. It won't go down dramatically.
I actually don't know that. You might be right. I really don't know how that works. You know what I mean? The brand is
the brand is the brand.
The brand is the brand.
And the building is the building.
Yes.
And the Valks are a part of it and all the rest of it.
And the Bay Area is the Bay Area.
No doubt.
Yeah.
But for me, ultimately, this is only a thing. And Monty writes in NBC Sports Bay Area, you should read it. He says, Kerr clearly is uneasy with suppression. That's the sentence that he wrote.
Who wouldn't be, especially at that point in your career, 60 years old, as successful as anyone in the entire league? Like, why would you submit to that? Like, you need to be our voice and our face, and you need to be out there in front of microphones, and people are going to ask you questions, and you want me to just turtle up? Boss said I can't talk about it. Like, what are we doing?
That's not how he sounds.
No, it's not.
But I like the effect.
You know what I mean?
I do.
I just this is not realistic.
It's realistic to the extent that they're the boss and he's the employee.
I get it, but then he can leave, and then you're up a creek because you don't have a good alternative, and that's not the PR that you want.
Well, we don't know what their alternative is. I agree with you that they probably won't be able to find a coach who has 9 championships and 4 as a coach of your team.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you that one. I mean, Phil Jackson is still around. You could pop him in there, and you could go from nine cute little chips to what's Phil got, 11?
What do you say when you say around? Where? You have any idea where he is?
Phil?
Yeah.
Montana.
Probably.
Wyoming.
Nobody knows.
Whitana.
Yeah.
Monoming.
When I read all this, all the things that Kerr needs, all the things that the front office needs, I don't know about you. I'm like, shrug shoulders. Easy. That's easy. Everybody can say yes to all that. Yes.
No, it's not.
I think he's going to stay.
I think he's going to go. And when I
know you do.
when I read that one sentence, Kerr clearly is uneasy with suppression.
Then don't suppress him.
Well, it's obvious that he wrote this, Monty Pool. He wrote this because there's a sense of suppression. And so,
Yes.
and Monty even writes some form of compromise on his willingness to address socio-political issues that are dear to his heart, some form of compromise. So I can imagine in the 2-hour meeting, it's Steve, it's Joe, it's we're the Lake Cubs, and I'll tell you what.
I think he's sitting there. He doesn't need to introduce himself. He's
Hi,
there.
Steve.
Yeah.
I'm Joe Lacob.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. You can talk about gun control, but not the president. You can talk about gas prices, but not the Straits of Hormuz. You can talk about Israel, but not Palestine. You know what I mean? Like, are we going like issue by issue? You can talk about the court, but not the Supreme Court.